welcome to Marshmallow Reads. I'm Marcy, and today I have 30 horror and spooky recommendations for you. There is no time to waste, so let's get to it. This year I have broken up the recommendations into 3 categories. We're going to start off with some cozy spooky stuff, move into some mystery thriller stuff, and then finish up with some truly scary and horror-y stuff. Cozy and spooky. I'm starting you all off with the Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir. I am currently in the middle of the 3rd book that just recently came out, and I believe it's going to be a 4-book series, but oh my gosh, I highly recommend picking this up. This might be my all-time favorite series ever. I plan on getting at least 1 tattoo from it, but only if it finishes well, so still have to see. It can generally be boiled down to lesbian necromancers in space, but there's so much more to it. I love the characters in here, especially the main 2 of the 9th house. We've got Harrow and Gideon, and they're just adorable and absolute idiots, perfect for each other. But the entire 9 houses, they have their own necromancers and cavaliers that each have their own great relationships and like weirdness going on. There's political stuff, there's so much. I love it. It's overall very spooky, so silly, and sometimes truly heartbreaking. I adore this series. Next, I have The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is a gothic historical fiction similar to her previous Mexican gothic. Very similar vibes. This one takes place in the Mexican Yucatan Peninsula, following the daughter of Dr. Moreau, who is either a genius or a madman. The doctor has been funded by a local wealthy family to create human-animal hybrids to work on that family's land. And there's romantic tension, interfamily weirdness, and overall a pretty good moody atmosphere. Next, I have a new favorite of mine. This is Nettle Bones by T. Kingfisher. This is a dark fairy tale where the 30-year-old protagonist must gather magical help in order to save her sister from an abusive prince. And it has fantastic spooky vibes and an adorable ghost skeleton dog, a demon chicken. Like, it has everything. It's great. I love it. A+. Mwah. Next up, I have a romance for you all. This is The Ex Hex by Erin Sterling. This is a witchy romance between a small-town academic witch and her sexy Welsh ex-boyfriend, who also comes from an old and powerful magical family, and they have lots of very spicy chemistry together. I loved the cozy small-town Halloween vibes and a variety of fun magical antics. And here's another favorite I found this year for you all. This is A Far Wilder Magic by ALLISON SAFT. This is a fantasy YA with a large romance element. Margaret and Weston must get over their weird awkwardness and team up together as hunter and alchemist in order to hunt down this demon fox thing that has been terrorizing their fantasy colonial New England town. And oh, it's so good. Like, Maggie definitely has some like tsundere vibes, if you know what I mean. Like, it's so good. I very much want to visit this world. You can just feel the autumnal atmosphere just jump out of the page here. Like I said, Maggie and Wes are adorable together. Oh, very, very good. Next up is the mystery thriller category. First up, we have Manhunt by Gretchen Felker Martin. Oh, this was a book. Oh my god. This is what I wanted Y the Last Man to be, because this book does not pull any punches, you know? Like, it is an explosive post-apocalyptic novel that follows trans men and women on a grotesque journey of survival. This is after a testosterone-linked virus has ravaged the globe, and basically the only people left are mostly cis women, but also trans women who luckily still had access to estrogen, and trans men. I think they described it as they happen to be in like a low T part of their cycle or something. Either way, it's so good. It's so good, guys. Like, this is a fantastic trans owned voices story. Fuck TERFs and all flavors of transphobes. And the audiobook, which is also narrated by a trans woman, had a fantastic Boston accent for one of the characters. Like, It was great. It was great. It was pretty gory. The virus just turns men and those with high testosterone levels into just crazed monsters that they have to hunt down and try to run from, and like trying to rebuild, but the turfs are being turfy, and like just check it out. Next, we have the fast-paced We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz. Two young women on their annual backpacking trip end up in a nightmare situation that they do end up dealing with. But then 2 years later, it happens again. This was a roller coaster tale of toxic friendship and a pretty speedy audiobook read. This is a somewhat recent release. I believe last winter or spring this came out. This is The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, where a down-on-her-luck British woman travels to see her journalist brother in his very fancy apartment in Paris. But when she gets there, she quickly realizes that he is nowhere to be found, and she has to figure out, what's going on? Could it be related to the story that he's investigating? Or maybe it's connected to his creepy neighbors. This book has a lot of creepy neighbors, like I said, and a surprising amount of spilled red wine, which I just thought was funny. Another pretty popular mystery thriller is A One by One by Ruth Ware. Here, two employees and an entire small tech company get snowed in a beautiful rustic mountain chalet in the Alps right after they discover that there is a killer among them. Ooh! I enjoyed the multiple POVs in this book. It had pretty good pacing, at least in my opinion. I was listening to the audiobook and was glad I was able to kick it up to 1.5x speed, but I did see reviews that said that they thought the pacing was on the slower side. So maybe pick it up an audiobook first to check it out, if especially if the physical or ebook didn't quite work out for you. But yeah, I think that was pretty good. Would be a great winter read as well. Such a good cover. This is Devil House by John Darnielle. A true crime writer moves into the Devil House to write a novel about the notorious pair of murders that happened here that were apparently committed by a group of disaffected teens in the 1980s. But during his research and writing, he has to confront what it means to be a true crime writer and like true crime as a genre, and like what it does to the victims and their families, and what it means for the authors and people that profit from it. Oh, I thought it was great. Not what I expected, but in a very, very good way. And last in this category, we have Winter Counts by David Heska Wombley Wyden. A vigilante on a Native American reservation embarks on a dangerous mission to track down the source of a heroin influx. This is an evocative, character-driven mystery that deals with substance abuse, corruption, family expectations, and the isolation of Indigenous communities. What a ride. Definitely a very good listen. I had I don't know if fun is the right word, but I did enjoy my time listening to this one. Okay, onto the biggest category. Here I have scary and actual true horror recommendations. First is a new 5-star fave. This is Goddess of Filth by V. Castro. I literally just finished this yesterday and I want to buy the book, but I'm not buying books right now. Gotta remind myself. Anyway. One summer night, 5 best friends hold a seance and accidentally summon the Aztec goddess of filth. Oops. The goddess then inhabits one of the girls, Fernanda, and this turns her from a shy, brainy girl to a massive slut, much to her mother's horror. I devoured this book. And I desperately need to draw some Bruja fan art. I need to draw the goddess and all her glory. I loved it, guys. Oh man, I loved its discussion of life as a young Mexican-American woman and how the worst thing you could do is be a skank. The deeply ingrained fear of pregnancy continues to haunt me to this day. Yeah, a great book. Also, fuck the church and fuck its creepy priests. Next, I have The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. who has very quickly become one of my favorite authors. In this, a young woman discovers a strange portal in her uncle's house, leading to madness and terror. This is a good pick for fans of House of Leaves. It definitely has like cosmic horror elements. I really like the characters, and it will make you afraid of trees. Next is a pair of books, Clown in Cornfield 1 and Clown in Cornfield 2, Friendo Lives by Adam Caesar. These are great examples of how to do slasher horror in novel form. Quinn just moved to a tiny Missouri town and is almost immediately caught up in a battle between tradition and progress. She and all of the other high schoolers in town must run and fight for their lives against Friendo, a homicidal clown in a pork pie hat. These books had a lot of good kills, some pretty good social commentary, and a great resolution to a love triangle. I loved it. Next, I have a recent purchase. This is a novella, Below by Laurel Hightower. This is about a recently divorced woman who meets a friendly truck driver while driving through the mountains of West Virginia during a late night snowstorm. And soon after that, she meets an unexplainable creature with haunting red eyes. How far would you go to help a stranger? This was so fun. I don't think I should tell you much more about it. It's really only like, how's it? Just over 100 pages long. So if that concept sounds interesting to you, definitely pick this one up. This is what I would call a vampire classic. This is Fledgling by Octavia E. Butler. Shori is a 53-year-old vampire, but appears as a young black girl, about like 10, 12 years old. One day, she wakes up in the woods with extensive injuries and no memories. At this point, she does not know that she is a vampire. She does not know how old she is. She must find help in human and vampire kind before those who nearly killed her ultimately succeed. Oh, I found this to be a great vampire novel on top of being a powerful commentary on racial prejudice. So check this one out, but maybe check some trigger warnings first. Up next is A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. A normal New England family gets torn apart when their 14-year-old daughter begins to display the signs of acute schizophrenia. Or perhaps it's demonic possession? To earn money to pay for her treatment, the family signs on to this reality show to document their plight, including getting some priests involved, doing some exorcist stuff. Yeah, this tale of psychological horror covers memory versus reality, science versus religion, and the nature of evil. That ending, man. Here we have This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. A young man moves to an isolated Colorado cabin after the tragic death of his partner, which may have been linked to their new smart speaker. Yeah, this is a bold horror about grief, loneliness, and the oppressive intimacy of technology. This is a short story collection, Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, one of my favorite authors right now. This collection features the earthly and otherworldly, queer and caustic, comic and deadly serious. My favorite story is where Machado reimagines episodes of Law & Order SVU as a phantasmagoric I can't say that word. As a phantasmagoric police procedural filled with doppelgangers, ghosts, and girls with bells for eyes. To give you a taste of the sort of weirdness you'd be getting from these stories. Got a graphic novel for you all. This is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. Really, anything by Junji Ito is, I think, worth taking a peek at. He's so good at this very specific kind of horror. In this story, we've got a small coastal Japanese town that is possessed by spirals. There is no escape. There is only the spiral. Oh, there is so much inventive and truly horrific and disgusting body horror in here. Just like after I finished this one, I knew I had to take a break from his stuff for at least a year because it still haunts me. My Soul to Keep by Tananarive Due is the first in a series. I haven't read more in that series, but I want to. This one, it has a normal woman who finds out that she has married and had a daughter with an immortal! More than 400 years ago, he and other members of an Ethiopian sect have traded their humanity for eternal life. And this is a secret that he and his brothers must protect at any cost. Yeah, the Brotherhood wasn't really happy at all when they found out about his confession to his wife about being an immortal. So then they set out on a hunt to deal with his mortal wife and daughter. Oh, that ending, man. That one got me. I'm interested to see where the story goes, but yes. It is definitely more of a slow burn, so I enjoyed it as an audiobook, but just be aware it's a little bit on the slow side. Oh, this was a fun one. My Dearest Darkest by Kayla Cottingham. This is a sapphic horror that takes place in an ultra-competitive New England academy. There's a mystery of a missing band, a spooky wish-granting witch. What price would you be willing to pay to achieve your deepest desires? This had great spooky fall vibes with like a taste of dark academia. Next, I have a couple by Stephen Graham Jones. First is The Only Good Indians. This is a dark novel of revenge, cultural identity, and the cost of breaking from tradition. You 100% feel the weight of the doom that hangs over these childhood friends who are finally faced with the consequences of a disturbing event from their youth. And then the other one is My Heart is a Chainsaw. This is a homage to horror and revenge and triumph. Jade is an angry half-Indian outcast with an abusive father, an absent mother, and an entire town that wants nothing to do with her. But when blood starts to spill into the waters of Indian Lake, Jade must use her encyclopedic knowledge of horror films to survive. Oh, this one actually broke my heart. It was so good. I can't wait for its sequel that should be coming out this February. Next, I have the first physical arc I have ever received. This is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. Basically, kinda sorta is Titanic meets The Shining? Sort of? A woman and her spaceship crew board a decades-lost luxury cruise liner and find the wreckage of a nightmare that hasn't yet ended. This is a great example why I love space horror. There's just something so incredibly terrifying to be alone in space with something this horrific. A quote, "Whispers in the dark, flickers of movement, words scrawled in blood." Love a good ghost ship. Next we have Summer Suns by Lee Mandello. This is one of the best examples of love between men in genre fiction that I have found so far. Andrew and Eddie were best friends until Eddie left Andrew behind to start a grad program at Vanderbilt on Southern Gothic folklore. When Eddie dies of apparent suicide, Andrew heads to Vanderbilt to pick up Eddie's project and hopefully uncover the secrets behind Eddie's life and death. This book has a circle of hot boys driving fast cars, parties with hard drugs, backstabbing academia, and a haunting romance. I'm obsessed with this book. I can't wait to read it again. This is Reprieve by James Han Matson. In 1997, 4 contestants make it to the final cell of a full-contact haunted escape room in Nebraska, famous for its monstrosities, booby traps, and ghoulishly costumed actors. If they make it alive without using the safe word, they'll earn a massive cash prize. This novel provides a searing social criticism of American life under capitalism. It had me gripped from beginning to end. Definitely check this one out. This is one I didn't love, but still want to recommend. This is The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. A real-life final girl who survived a massacre 2 decades ago meets with other actual final girls and their therapist in a support group in the hopes of putting their lives back together piece by piece. Until one of their own goes missing and they become hunted yet again. But these girls know how to never give up. This is not a perfect story, but it is fast-paced and the characters were interesting and it kept me hooked. On to the penultimate recommendation. This is The Death of Jane Lawrence by Caitlin Sterling. I'm still obsessed with this cover. Look at it! This is so spooky. This gothic historical fantasy follows Jane Shoringfield, who has done the calculations and decided that the most secure path in her life is to get a husband in a marriage of convenience who will allow her to remain independent and occupied by meaningful work. So she isn't looking for love, just wants some security. This was a good plan, but too bad that the husband she found was the unfortunate owner of a crumbling family manor. This has some spooky Crimson Peak-like vibes with a unique take on ghosts and the haunted mansion. And the last one, if you've read everything else, if you have read all of the horror out there and are looking for something to truly disturb you to your core, might I suggest Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterica. Working at a local processing plant, Marcos is in the business of slaughtering humans, although no one calls them that anymore. A virus has caused all animal flesh to be inedible to humans, except for human flesh. Yeah, no. If this actually happened, I simply would have gone vegan. Like, yeah, no, thank you. Oofa doofa. What a disgusting, brutal, gut-wrenching read. And I loved it. Definitely not for the weak of heart or stomach, but I think a suitable ending to this list. I hope you all have a wonderful spooky season, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!